In fintech, definitely everybody says the same thing. It's really hard to build a brand that is trusted by the consumer. The fintechs that have been trying to enter the market and earn the trust of the end consumer have a very long road ahead, and they find it very hard to stay alive while they build that trust. People build communities and connect with each other. When you're an active part of that community, the trust that you build makes you grow your business. That's the reality.
In essence, we're seeing a lot of our clients need communities. You initiated the creation of Miami Fintech Club. Ideas to Scale, next edition. So we're diving into the financial services world.
The financial services world, my favorite world. So we have been working in the financial services for a long time, and it has changed a lot. Unfortunately, financial services in general has always lagged behind in terms of innovation for market positioning, innovation for marketing strategies, etc. I still remember, I'm old enough to remember when a CEO asked me why they needed a website. So, but that still happens, right? And unfortunately, in financial services, there is still a lot of concern with regulatory impact of your communications, which is very, very common. A lot of fights with compliance, which is very, very common too. But it's getting there. It's improving. And the fintech world has actually pushed the industry forward in a way and challenged it to be more innovative and more creative.
So in terms of what we usually, the problems that we usually solve for, so the legacy brands would say, should I refine, evolve, or transform my brand, maintaining so that I can keep up with my key constituencies or my key stakeholders or my clients and still be relevant? So that's one of the aspects that we're seeing in terms of trends, is that legacy brands need to connect. And one pool that they're diving into is what fintech world is doing, which is actually moving at a much faster pace in terms of they don't have that heavy or even the legacy, the whole attributes or the whole perception that they have in terms of the retail and the whole brick and mortar space, and they're working towards that. So it's actually this drive coming into the legacy, and as well as the legacy coming into the fintech world, saying, okay, you need guardrails, you need compliance, you need this. So where we're at in terms of, okay, they come to us, either they're entering new markets or they're introducing a new product or service in the financial services. We understand what is the landscape, what's happening. And we have to play and figure out what's happening in both worlds. And then in terms of strategy, not even going into in terms of branding and communications, in terms of strategy, what are the open spaces you're seeing?
So I see two things. In fintech, definitely everybody says the same thing, which is it's really hard to build a brand that is trusted by the consumer, right? So the legacy brands in financial services are the long-standing ones. Statistically, if you look at it, financial services brands that have actually earned the long-term trust of clients are still the big ones. They're still the long-standing banks, the wealth management firms, etc. So what happens is that the fintechs that have been trying to enter the market and earn the trust of the end consumer have a very long road ahead, and they find it very hard to stay alive while they build that trust and reach the consumer. That's why you see very little like unicorns or big successes in the fintech world.
Well, we can't agree to disagree here. In terms of what I'm seeing in terms of the fintech world and where we're coming from, Latin America, we're seeing impressive problems that they're solving for that not US based, payment systems, underserved population that were actually getting their wallets on. So we're seeing,
Yeah, but the numbers are not that big, Gabby.
no?
No, we see a ton of fintechs in Latam, but very, very little amount of fintechs that actually make it in terms of strong revenue flows and strong user acquisition flows. If you see the amount of fintechs that have been launched versus the amount of fintechs that are actually known by the end consumer,
Yeah,
it's
but
tiny. That comparison is tiny. So the strategy that I've seen that most fintechs take right now is the B2B approach and the white label approach. Why? Because they have to tag into the strong brand of the already recognized players in the industry.
that's right.
That's what happened with Cell. Even, Cell, for example, is incredible. Like, everybody knows Cell, but it's behind every single bank. And if they had stayed the route and tried to stay like Venmo, I don't know if they would have survived. It really depends on the funding and, the breathing space they have in the long run.
Okay. Let's go in terms of the branding side, or in terms of scaling companies with the brand communications on the fintech world. In that space, what do you see the key things that actually make a fintech world or a wealth management or financial advisor service? What do you see key in terms of the branding and communications?
Well, most of them do not understand the long-term commitment it takes and the investment it takes to truly build your brand and your exposure. And also the integration that they need between the sales team, the commercial team, and marketing. Marketing and sales have always been like these competitive and, tug of turf. Like, I don't know. I don't know why they view it that way. Since I've always worked with teams and I always go to CEOs in financial services and say, marketing's role is to enhance and empower and give the tools that the sales team needs, especially in the B2B world, to be successful. That's the way they should work with each other. One should service each other. The other one should, because you always have the sales guy coming and saying, I don't have enough leads from marketing. That's why I don't sell. And marketing saying, well, sales is not doing enough meetings. And they just, blame each other. The most successful ones I've seen are the ones that actually just integrate with each other and say, hey, I know you can help me with this. And I know you can help, like they help each other. Sales comes and gives the feedback that the marketing team needs in terms of what events work, what spaces they should be in and which ones they shouldn't. And marketing comes and asks sales, hey, what tools did I give you that worked with your meeting? What tools worked with your events? So that integration for me is key. And then in the C-level side is more and more we see, and that's why we work with a lot of marketing, a lot of executives in their positioning.
They're super low profile, typically.
Financial, C-level in financial services, they don't want to speak. But the reality that I always say is people listen to people, they don't listen to brands.
Exactly.
So unless you are the top 1%, that BlackRock publishes their economic report, great, you're gonna read it. Anybody else below that, it's really hard to get.
You listen to Warren Buffett.
The attention, right? They will listen to Warren Buffett. So the idea is you're an entrepreneur, you're a C-level executive in financial services. You need to be an advocate for your industry too.
Absolutely. I see more and more often that the CEOs are playing low profile. And once they tap into simple LinkedIn, generating a podcast or creating some type of content that gets their ideas, their vision, the why of the company, the financial services, what we're doing, what they're serving. Once it gets out there, it's like, boom, you get faster pace of growth or faster pace of engagement and loyalty, even with your talent, with the team that you're working for. That's one thing. And
Well,
I know
generally, the problem is that they are scared because they have this tag of war with compliance. And that's a legacy problem.
and they have also the perception that it takes very long. And we do it super
It
simple.
takes a lot of work.
It takes a lot of work. I don't have the time. And it's like, well, how can you put that on my plate? Da, da, da. And we simplify that process because the barriers, for us, our philosophy is, how would it look if it were simpler? I mean, how can we make this simple? How would it look, and how would it feel? How would it play? And that's the idea we tend, because we do, in essence, our hypothesis is that the CEO needs to be that first voice of the company. In essence, we're seeing a lot of our clients need communities, right? And we figured it out that way, and we created the Miami Fintech Club, or you initiated the creation of Miami Fintech Club. Why do we need communities? Explain that side of generating communities into that space.
Well, we have this approach. We always talk about how you need to find your niche and be the leader of your niche. So, first of all, we created Miami Fintech Club because we're walking our talk, first of all. But secondly, it's just that much easier. We've seen it in successful communities like Palo Alto. People build communities and connect with each other. They make a community and an industry grow. And on the other side, when you're an active part of that community, which again, it doesn't mean to be full-time engagement into events or anything. It's just that the trust that you build makes you grow your business. That's a reality. And we always talk about touch points, right? We always talk about how you engage with everybody around you, your stakeholders, and who you want to influence, right? So those touch points are what builds trust. And that trust today is key. If you don't have that trust, it's really hard to convert business. And on the other hand, finally, what we say about customer journeys is, and this is a very simple concept to remember, and I use it as an anecdote. I was, at Scalto, I'm also part of the operations lead, and we work on all of our administration, right? So we're looking for an outsourced CFO. And we put the project in. We said we were going to do an outsourced CFO hire. And I started asking for recommendations. Key, community. You ask for recommendations. Easier to do that, right? I got, 5, 10 recommendations from everybody. Good. Then we decided to postpone that project we had because I had other projects on our plate. And we postponed it for 3 months or 4 months. When I had to pick up that project again, I didn't remember who I had spoken to, honestly. And most people don't. You have 1 million meetings a month. If you are diligent, you keep notes, but you don't remember who you spoke to. And the worst thing that can happen to your brand is for me to Google again or to ask for referral again, because I may or may not land in your service again and in your network again. So what do? We stay top of mind. To stay top of mind, you need to stay active in the community. You need to stay active in digital channels. You need to stay active so that people remember when they met you, how they met you, and what you solved for them.
How they made you feel.
Exactly.
But to wrap it up, I may add like another approach is that it's very lonely at the top. So once you have CEOs, you have this, they find in Scalto, they find in us a way to connect, a way to engage, a way to think their process through, as well as engage in, like, say, Miami Fintech Club or any other community, having that level of discussion in those tiered or targeted communities as well. So I do think, in essence, the final words on the fintech world, as well as other B2B service firms, you need to have your strategy right. You need to be consistent and be present in the space that you want to play. In order to play, not to play, but to win. So that, in essence, that's our ideas to scale on the fintech and the financial services. It plays well.
Financial services, you need consistency, you need trust building, and you need leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you.